If you really want to understand Bitcoin, you can't start with the technology. Nope. You have to start with something much, much older. Something deeply human, money. Because to get what Bitcoin is, you first have to understand what money has always been.
Just think about that for a second. A piece of paper, a seashell, some numbers on a bank's computer screen, none of that stuff has any real value on its own. It only works because we all agree it does. Money is a shared story, a powerful fiction that functions only because billions of us believe in it. It's the most universal myth we have.
And that's the question, isn't it? That's what this is all about. What happens when the world starts to believe in a new story about value?
Okay, so let's get into it. For the last 50-odd years, we've all been living inside one specific story about money. But as more and more people are starting to notice, that story, well, it's starting to show some serious cracks. You know, the story of money has always been evolving. We started out just trading things directly. You give me furs, I'll give you a spear. Then we found a better story in things like gold and silver, stuff that was rare and durable. For convenience, we started using paper claims on that gold, like IOUs. But then in 1971, the story took a radical turn. Governments, led by the US, just cut the link to gold entirely. And from that day forward, our money wasn't backed by a physical thing anymore. Its value was based purely on trust, or faith really, in the institutions that print it.
And this is where those cracks start to show. The fiat story, it turns out, has some built-in problems. You know that 2% inflation target they're always talking about? That's a feature, not a bug. It's designed to make your savings slowly lose value over time. The whole thing is centrally controlled, which means a very small group of people can decide to freeze your account or just, create trillions of new dollars out of thin air. The system is also built on a mountain of ever-increasing debt, which creates these massive boom and bust cycles. And when you add it all up, your savings losing value, central control, constant debt, you get a system that starts to feel pretty fragile.
In this slide, wow, it just shows you that fragility in one picture. That line represents all the claims on money growing way, way faster than the actual money in the system. That gap between them, that's risk. That's instability. And in 2008, well, you can see right there what happened. The music stopped. The story broke.
But here's the wild part. At the very moment the old story was completely falling apart, a new one was being quietly written, a potential solution to the very problems that caused the crash.
The timing was just incredible. It was no accident. While governments were busy bailing out the banks and the whole world was watching the financial system melt down, some anonymous person or group using the name Satoshi Nakamoto published a paper online. And it wasn't just complaining about the problem. It was a blueprint for something totally new.
Let those words sink in. No trusted third party. That was the revolution. The idea was a way to send value directly from one person to another, anywhere in the world, without needing a bank or a credit card company or a government to give the okay.
This new system was called Bitcoin. And at its heart, it's a system that replaces our trust in fallible human institutions with the cold, hard certainty of math. Instead of a bank's private records, it uses a public ledger that everyone can see, called the blockchain. Just think of it like a global digital notebook. And when a transaction happens, it gets written down in every single copy of that notebook at the same time. To cheat, you'd have to somehow find and change thousands of those copies all at once, which is pretty much impossible. And that's how it works. That's how it creates trust without a central authority.
So that's the big pitch, right? But what makes this story believable? Why would anyone choose to put their faith in this new system over the one we've known for decades?
The answer is that it was designed from the ground up to have the properties of what economists call sound money. Its most powerful feature, as you can see, is absolute scarcity. The code is written so that only 21 million Bitcoin will ever exist, period. No committee can vote to print more. It's incredibly durable because it runs on this global network of computers, so there's no single server to shut down. And since every transaction is on that public ledger, anyone can verify it. It's a system built on proof, not on promises.
Really, the best way to think about it is as an upgrade to the oldest money story we've got, gold. Gold's valuable because it's hard to dig out of the ground. Bitcoin is valuable because its supply is fixed by math. But unlike gold, you can send Bitcoin across the planet in minutes. And you can hold it yourself, which makes it much, much harder for anyone to take it from you.
And this right here is its secret weapon. Satoshi designed Bitcoin to be decentralized. You remember BitTorrent?
how you could share files without going through a central company? Bitcoin works the same way. There's no headquarters to raid, no CEO to arrest, no main server to unplug. It just runs. And that makes it incredibly tough to stop.
A great story is one thing, but a story only really becomes money when people start to believe in it. So who's believing this new story, and why? Let's take a look at how this idea started to catch on around the world.
This quote is from an entrepreneur named Wences Casares. He grew up in Argentina, a country that's been crushed by hyperinflation over and over again. For him, the old money story failing wasn't some theory in a textbook. It was his life. So when he found Bitcoin, he saw a tool for survival, a way to save money that his government couldn't print into worthlessness.
And Wences' experience points to a much bigger global pattern. This new story of Bitcoin, it resonates the loudest in places where the old one has totally collapsed. In countries with crazy inflation, political chaos, or tight financial controls, Bitcoin isn't a risky speculation. It's an escape hatch. It's a lifeboat.
And the stories spread in these waves, each one bigger than the last. First, it was the cypherpunks and idealists who got it from day one. Then came a wave of early businesses and tech folks. But now, we're seeing the biggest wave of all crash onto the shore. Wall Street is here. They've launched Bitcoin ETFs, big institutions are finally treating it as a serious asset, and it's becoming part of the mainstream financial world.
And that brings us right to this moment. The new story isn't some fringe idea anymore. It's out there, competing on the global stage. But that doesn't mean it's a sure thing. It has its own set of challenges and some really big questions.
And we've got to be real about the hurdles. Its price, as we all know, is incredibly volatile, which makes it tough to use for your daily coffee right now. The energy it takes to secure the network is a huge and complicated debate. And of course, governments all over the world are still trying to figure out what to do with the technology that challenges their control over money, which means the rules are constantly changing.
So, when you boil it all down, we're living through a fundamental choice about what we want to trust. The old story is based on trusting human institutions, central banks, governments, politicians, with a closed rulebook. The new story, the Bitcoin story, is based on trusting mathematics, on open source code, and a public ledger that anyone, anywhere, can check for themselves.
In the end, whether Bitcoin succeeds or fails, it has already changed the world. It has forced us all to ask what money even is and what we want it to be in the future. The story of money is not over. It's being written right now, by all of us. And the only question is, which version of that story do you find more believable?